When you think of Ronald Dahl, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Matilda, The Witches? For me, it would be the BFG. It's a story about a little girl getting kidnapped by the big friendly giant who is then thrown into the adventure of a lifetime as she ends up trying to save the world from man-eating giants. While one of Dahl's more lesser-known novel-length stories, it has actually had a film adaptation before and, well...
No.
Turnips?
You was wrong again. Sweet from Sweden is all tasting sweet and sour.
Yeah, it holds up about as well as the first Narnia movie before the most recent version. But now at last, a live adaptation of the book is about to hit theaters July 1st. And seeing as how a few of my fans wanted me to do something non-pony and disability related, I decided to comprise a list, the top 10 things I'm hoping to see in this movie when it's released. Now keep in mind, these are just my personal opinions, and it's based on both what I've heard from the movie so far, and what I really just want to see done in the movie that couldn't happen in the book. And with that, while there really isn't any big twist or reasons why I should put up a spoiler tag, I do recommend you read the book, or at the very least see the animated adaptation, just to understand some of the things I'll be talking about.
So hold your breaths, cross your fingers, here we go.
Number 10. One of the soldiers in the climax taking the man-eating giants personally. One of the things that always made me scratch my head while reading the ending of the book was that, after the Queen's army is able to capture and imprison the giants, the fact that they ate about a dozen school children, as well as many other humans, is never brought up again. You'd think there'd be at least one parent cursing down at them while this was going on. I even thought those three men at the very end that got drunk and climbed over the walls that got eaten were fathers seeking some sort of satisfaction for their losses. So what I'm wondering is, perhaps one of the soldiers in this mission might have had a son or daughter who was eaten, and we get to see some of his feelings during the whole ordeal. Well, perhaps, if he's not able to let his hatred of the giants go, it could cost him his life, as a warning about the dangers of revenge. May or may not happen, but I'd be all for seeing this. Number 9. Giant Country. If there's anything you can count on with these live-action Disney movies, it's just how visually appealing they are. So far, from all the trailers, it looks like this one is not going to disappoint. Number 8. Torturing the Giants. One of the things most people seem to love about the Dahl books were the villains getting their comeuppance. And the man-eating giants were no exception. From eating rotten vegetables to being put into death battles with each other on a daily basis, and eventually being sent to a hole. So I wouldn't mind if there wasn't as much torture porn with these giants. A little pain from these man-eaters would go a long way in pleasing me. Number 7. Capturing the giants. As much as torturing them is important, the movie will not feel complete unless the capturing of the giants is just as impressive. Now, this is not necessarily high on the list because, well, I know it's going to happen. It's the climax of the book. However, what I'm looking forward to is how they pulled this off. While the book was good, it did kind of feel a little anticlimactic. I mean, they just kind of show up, tie up the giants, Sophie stabs one in the knee when he wakes up, and the story kind of ends. Heck, even in the animated version, it felt a lot more tense and surreal. I mean, just look at some of this imagery. You can actually feel the fear of the soldiers as the giants start to wake up. And so far in the trailer, all we get is this one little punch right here, but hopefully they'll make it much more impressive. Number 6. More on Sophie. Now, a part of the reason why I only consider this my second favorite Dahl book, aside from another issue I'll cover later, Sophie never really felt that special or interesting, at least when compared to some of the other kid characters in Dahl's books. I mean, she does some cool things later on, but character-wise, it feels more like a second-person self-insert character. And even if it does kind of go the more she's a victim of bullying cliche, I'd personally much rather see that than nothing at all. So yeah, I'm kind of interested to see what they do with her, and I hope it's definitely worth the payoff. Number 5. Seeing the Queen's Nightmares and Other Dreams. Now this is where the movie can really shine in being an adaptation. since it was only told from Sophie's point of view, all we got of this scene was her watching the queen react. What I'm really hoping for is that we actually get to see the dream in action. Number 4. Greatly changing up the dialogue from the book. Now, this falls into 2 parts, both of which are part of the reasons why this is only my second favorite doll book instead of my actual favorite. The first being, this book was written in a different age, so some things that worked back then may not work out so well now. With that said, there was always another part of the book I never liked personally. The way the giant talks, particularly to Sophie and to a lesser extent us the audience. Basically what most of their dialogue would be consisting of the giant explaining something, Sophie not believing it or asking questions, and then the giant more or less putting her down for being wrong about it. Or, allow these guys to explain better.
I'm happy that you're happy, but the place where you're supposed to have the toilet paper, you got this little shelf with 3 seashells on it.
He doesn't know how to use the 3 seashells.
And it's something that I've always disliked in most fantasy and sci-fi mediums, talking down to humans, or rather the audience, like we're idiots just not for knowing certain things. And I get that it's a trick to get exposition out of the way, but it always just felt like the characters were just saying how stupid we were. And while I'm sure a few of these lines will make it into the movie, the trailer makes me confident it's going to be focused more on my next choice here instead. Number 3. Sophie and the BFG's relationship. The heart of any story is how well and likable the 2 lead characters are, and how well they play off each other. And I'll be honest, thanks to what I explained in my last choice, I never felt the book gave them good chemistry, or at least as well as I think it could have been. I mean, in the book, the giant says he took Sophie because she saw him, and he didn't want to take the risk of her babbling to someone that she saw a giant in the middle of the night roaming the streets of London. Because I'm sure every adult is going to take that seriously. But on a serious note, for most of the book, it felt like the BFG was just treating her more like a pet than a friend. Heck, he even shows Sophie the other giants, and tells her that if she runs away, she'll be eaten. But from what I've seen and read in interviews, it looks as if they're going to spend a lot of time making sure these 2 have good chemistry as friends. As suggested with this one line from the trailer.
Why did you take me?
Because I hears your lonely heart. I hear all the secret whisperings of the world.
Which again leads to my next choice. Number 2. More on the BFG, particularly being picked on by the other giants. Another thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way with the book was how the BFG says the other giants would never hurt or kill him. Why? Because he's a giant, and according to him, humans are the only creature on Earth not killing their own kind. And for that note, when they place the giants down into the pit at the end of the story and he unties them, they say they're gonna do just that to him. So I never really bought his excuse when he just says giants don't kill other giants. And even before I read the interview about how they were going for the angle of more on bullying, I've always felt like there was something more going on in the book that the giant wasn't letting on. So there's a lot free you can interpret, such as, in my case, the BFG saying they would never kill him is just how he copes with the reality that they just pick on him for fun, and they could easily kill him at any moment, but the only reason they don't is because they find more entertainment in torturing him. And likewise, I like to believe the real reason he took Sophie, it was so he doesn't have to be lonely anymore, and be with someone whom he can relate with, which we see a bit more hinted at in the second trailer, and I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of this encounter, they end up smashing some of his bottles in his house, which I believe could create some powerful moments between him and Sophie, as well as making the ending seem much more satisfying when they eventually win. Which, speaking of,